Welcome to Black Dads Unplugged. This is a supportive platform for Black fathers to amplify the voices of Black fathers, present and active. The vision of Black Dads Unplugged is to have empowered, emotionally well, confident, and active fathers. So today we're at Ekurhuleni East TVET College, Ekwatema, my hometown. We are launching Black Dads Unplugged. Super excited. We have had a number of different gentlemen, around 20. We haven't looked at the numbers quite well as yet.
23.
Oh, 23. So we have 23 dads. And when we say dads, we mean father figures. So anyone who is in the custodian of children. So you can be a social father, which is a concept which I learned today from KG. So we're going to just reflect around the session. So I'll start with you, Sifiso. How have you found the session? How do you think the launch went? Just generally your thoughts.
I think I'll start by saying I had expectations, of course, that we'd meet some men. And generally, I know how gents chat, and we're very chatty and very conversational when we're with ourselves. And I was glad that that spirit was maintained, and even though we were talking about serious things, I think gents were engaging quite positively. UKG had a presentation on mental health, which I thought was, for such a serious topic, was managed with a lot of care and with a lot of understanding. Also taking into consideration the context that, these are men here. It wasn't given in a presentation format, which I really appreciated. Yeah, because, it can sometimes feel very preachy and very, I don't know if it's educational is the word, but it can feel very preachy, as if somebody's dictating to you as a man how you should lead your life, right? But then when you engage the men and ask them how are they feeling, what are their thoughts on these particular things, and find a way to sort of integrate that into the terms that you are using. There was one term I particularly liked, that gender empathy gap, which was, I think, a lovely way to put a common problem that men face in society, which is the idea that as a man, you're not necessarily allowed to be vulnerable in the way that other vulnerable groups who are acknowledged by society are allowed to be vulnerable. And so I was really grateful to come up with, or for you to come and teach the term gender empathy gap, and so I understand it much. I understand that particular sort of challenge that men face or fathers face, and I now am appreciative of the fact that I have a language to be able to speak about it, and so I think the gents were also quite happy to fill out our little surveys. And because sometimes it can get quite tedious, if women's sexual empowerment involves, the ability to choose what happens to your body. It's can we extend that to men as well and be like, oh, sure, the ability to ejaculate is also a choice, and how do you preserve and take care of yourself? And so I think for me it was quite an insightful session, and as KG, as a person who was speaking, did you have anything that you learned from being in a session?
Yeah, man, it's always good to come to these spaces, I can say that I spend a lot of time reading, researching, talking to people about this stuff, but every time I get with a new group of men, there's always something new that comes up, right? And I also appreciate, I think I'm from Pretoria, it's White, right? And the guys are from the East End. I drove, it's an hour plus to get here, right? But then we're going through the same things. It doesn't matter where you're from. Right? So it's a human experience more than it's a fatherly experience or it's a manly experience. It's a human experience. We're all experiencing these issues. But what I also love about it is we're evolving past what our fathers went through now, right? We were talking about telling your father that you love him, right? So I posed the question already, when was the last time your father told you that he loves you, right? And that was a very good discussion because, man, a lot of us never heard that. But someone came up and said, no, but I told my father I love him. And he couldn't even respond to that, right? Yes. So you can see how we've evolved like differently.
Yes.
Right. So what I learned from these spaces, and I have to give credit to Malusilanga, who's someone who's taught me this, right, through his work, through the book that he wrote, Becoming Men in South African Townships, where he's experienced the love from these boys, right? These are boys from Alex, 13, I think it's about 13, I might be wrong there, so please correct me if I am, but took a couple of boys from high school and grew up with them, right? And all the way through tertiary, and then he started working. And he saw how differently they're negotiating their masculinities. You can read it in that book. And I get to hear this through guys here, guys my age, right? Where you think if you read a newspaper or if you look at the reports on the news that, these guys are not talking about this stuff, right? These guys are at the pubs. Of course they're guys at the pubs. Maybe some of us right now, after here, we're going to go to the pub. But guess what? I chose to then affirm myself. I chose to come together with men, some maybe I don't know. I chose to come listen to KG, who I don't even know,
yes.
you know. But I engaged with that man, and now I'm better off now, right? And I can take what I learned here and take it to other people. And I think that's what these spaces mean for me, right? It's not about just keeping it in one place or just keeping it between us two. Like, I've evolved and I've learned something new now. You've learned about the gender empathy gap. Now you're going to take it further.
Sure. Definitely.
So that for me is what I learned from it, and that's what I got from it. I got a lot of story, man, and that's what we need. You know, we need a lot of male stories and honest stories. And when you listen to these stories here, it wasn't people crying about, I don't have this, I don't have that. No, it's guys talking about, no, but this is how I'm showing up, right? Of course I've got challenges, but I'm showing up, right? And we're also asking each other questions. We're also advising each other in some instances. And I love what you spoke about in terms of, you know, not coming here as an expert, man. I come here as a learner all times.
Sure.
Learner first, right? Because I don't know what Azola is going through. So for me to come here and assume that I know because I have some stats or some research, I invalidate his experience, right? But by welcoming him into the space and having him welcome me into the space, then it's an exchange. And we're better off. So that's what I got from the space. And thank you, James, for it.
Sure, definitely. I think you're raising a very important point. Like, for me, what was really refreshing is the fact that, you know, there were two gents, like, you know, the majority was speaking about not getting affection from, you know, and that's similar to what's happening in mainstream media as well. Like, where the conversation is centered around the negative. But there were two gents here. You know, one of the gents was speaking about, like, he had eczema growing up, and his father was the one who was taking care of him, medicating him, you know, and that is seen as care work. And care work is always linked to women, you know. So, like, for me, that type of story excites me because those are the stories we want to tell. There was another gent who was speaking about that he's the one who actually said to his dad, yo, I want some tabus, you know, because he was in high school and his father wanted to kiss him, you know, and that's why Black Dads Unplugged exists. You know, it's literally to amplify the voices of those positive stories, you know, and for me, that was just so refreshing. And it really validated the work that we're trying to do here. So I want to speak about, we obviously had a number of sessions, but like there was one where we gave out this Z card because we feel like it's important to, you know, literally have takeaway material. You know, Sifiso, I know you were involved in the design of the crossword puzzle, you know. Maybe we can start and, like, you know, what's the idea around the Z card? You know, why do we have it?
Well, I think in my mind what I was thinking is, you know, I learned today also that one of the brothers who were here, Lebohang, said that the word father comes from the word foundation, right? And so I love that, you know. But in my mind, I went with the idea of, you know, the father or the dad being ahead, or some sort of direction, right? And so I felt like crossword puzzles assist with fortifying the mind, you know, like you're able to sort of think around what's required of you, you know, and be able to mental gymnastics, man. Like say gym, but gymming on, yeah, well. And so I think that's important, like for fathers not to only be physically fit, you know, but I think mentally fit, emotionally fit are things that are quite necessary in this day and age, you know. But I also did feel that it would be great to have an outline of the type of topics that we would like to discuss, you know, after, of course, chatting with you. And put this forth to the gents, like these are the type of things that we would like to discuss. We're not going to tell you how to discuss this. We're just going to leave them as questions, you know, so that as a man, you know, you can ask yourself and you can answer yourself. And perhaps next time when we meet, we can share upon the reflections that we've had on the questions that are inside the pamphlet, you know. And it also serves as a nice little, you know, resource, you know, card. It's got our information on there as well. Hopefully this group becomes some sort of support base, you know, like where we're able to tap into each other's sort of resources, expertise, or whatever it may be, you know. But like it's a good time to say, hey, this is who we are, here we are, this is what we're trying to discuss. And you know what, you know, we care about your mental health and your brain, you know, and so
Sure.
like come join us, you know, and here's something for you to take home, and perhaps you can share with other fathers and other people that you meet along the way, you know? So that was the whole thing.
Sure, 100%. So I'll just look at a number of there's like a number of topics here.
Yes.
So one of the topics is the power of presence. There's fatherhood and mental health. I think that's why we had Kgaugelo. Kgaugelo is from Manned Up Conversations. So that's actually a really, really great platform to check out as well, because this whole thing about black dads is actually about men, you know, because you need to show up for yourself first,
Yes.
before you can show up as a father. It's got navigating co-parenting and blended families. I heard from one of the gents that, like, you know, he was glad that, you know, it's not just looking at the traditional family,
Yes.
like, you know, because I think we're all coming from different types of families, you know. So it also has raising black children in a complex world, you know, and there's one question here, maybe Kgaugelo, I don't know if you want to tackle this one,
Okay.
but like, how do we instill confidence and resilience in our children, you know? And this is coming from a perspective of, you know, being black children, not having, you know, strong cultural identity, maybe. And these, I'm just picking from the questions. So it's about navigating a complex world. So you can speak to that, maybe.
Yeah.
Or you can actually choose for yourself as well. You know, you can choose one you're comfortable with. Yeah.
No, I think I'll take that one. You know, confidence and resilience in our children. How do we instill that? So, I mean, I shared a story with the guys about how I, you know, got into this whole mental health space and basically got into my own mind and got to appreciate my mind, right? So one of the things that I'm a serious advocate for is journaling, man. You know, there's a place inside of all of us that we can go to that's quite a peaceful place, right? The God within you know, that I do not take lightly. The Bible teaches us about God and his teachings about the resurrection and all of those things. But they teach us those things like the external. But when you actually think about it, and now I don't want to get into chakra systems and start counting them and labeling them, but when you think about that, then you know that the resurrection and the God, they all here, right? So if you can journal and you can sit there, trust me, journaling might feel like a futile exercise. It's nothing, it's just a bunch of words, right? But when I go back and I read the stuff that I wrote in high school, bro, it's stuff I'm doing today. You know, I can literally tell you some of my lyrics from songs that I performed. It's stuff that happened in my life, right? But guess what? I can still read those things and like, oh man, I was going through this then. Okay, so I can actually, right? So that then is like, sure, I can go to therapy. Of course, you need some people to guide us, to help us, to assist us. But you have something here. Right?
Sure.
There's a book called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. I guarantee you, if you pick that book up and you read it from today, you'll have probably the best experience of who you are, right? Outside of everything that's going on, because that's a journey of the things that you will go through in life, but you realize that you always come full circle to your center, which is you,
Sure.
right? And if you can deal with that center and nurture that center, then trust me, man, you're a beautiful human being. Any kid can go anywhere in the world as long as they know themselves.
Sure.
Culture and apartheid and all of these things that we put on ourselves. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a father. Of course, these are archetypes, right? These are different things that we'll experience in life. But at the end of the day, there's something here that affirms you and only you.
Sure.
Right? That's unique to you, to your DNA, to your family, right? So whatever I give birth to will then obviously be based on me as the foundation. Right? So then we're instilling that kind of confidence in them to be resilient. Like, you want to go through things.
Sure.
I think we spoke about that. Like, someone said, you know, if your father tells you too much that they love you, they're coddling you, right? Then the world is it's gonna feel like, man, they're not showing me love, these people, you know. But no, if you know within yourself you've got love, you've been affirmed, of course, from family. But hey, some of us don't have family. We have to figure out, find a way. What do artists do, man? Why do we love music like that?
Sure.
It's because those people are able to get in touch with that center, right?
Sure.
And they affirm us, right? We love Tupac. Tupac is my favorite. He's been gone, man. But that man gave me a way for me to start thinking about, man, what is a black man, right? So we need things outside, like I say, but those things will always bring us back to the center. So we need to teach these children, man, find a bliss station. Find a place, a time in your home. Maybe it can't be on a street corner, but somewhere, right? Somewhere where you can sit by yourself, be with yourself, and figure out whatever you need to figure out. Do something. Eventually that thing will start germinating, becoming something beautiful. And I think that's one thing we can do.
Sure, 100%. You know, when you're speaking about journaling, you're making me remember the exercise we did here. And this exercise around language, what language are you using, how are you showing up in terms of your body, emotions, you know, it made me think, like, you know, because life is so busy, you end up not, like, you know, spending any time to just sit and reflect. And I think these Z cards are a catalyst, or, you know, to prompt that journaling, you know, as Fiso mentioned, like, you know, these are questions. It's not prescriptive. It's for you to sit down. And I think as much as the children can journal as well, it's important for the fathers to sit down. And we have some of the fathers still here, which are watching right now. Like, you know, these Z cards are not like for show. You know, they really have been made for you to sit at home, you know, do the mental gymnastics that Sifiso is talking about with the crossword puzzles. I saw some fathers have already started filling it out. Kudos to you.
That's great.
But like one of the main topics like that you spoke about, KG, well, in your talk, was provide and protect, you know, as well as male disposability. But like I think the provide and protect is one which is like, you know, very center and core at like the idea and identity of what a dad is.
Sure.
And there's like, you know, I raised a point around that provision goes beyond finances, that you need to be able to provide your presence emotionally, time, physically. And there's the very, very first podcast of Black Dads Unplugged that I did with Sifiso here. That was just a different setting. We just had a phone, and it was a very interesting one. Like I think the quality here will be much more different, much better. But like I think Sifiso mentioned something there. You know, he said, "I want my children to remember me, not for my money, or my things." Yeah, he said, "I don't want my children to remember me for my things. I want them to remember me." You know, and Sifiso, I want you to maybe come in here and maybe just shed some light in what that means, because it was quite a contentious issue around, you know,
Yes, it's true. I think the idea of providing and protecting is a thing, that's sort of a role that's been left to men. But you know, I'll raise that first, and KG mentioned this earlier today, right? And he said something along the lines of you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And so in order for you to provide, you need to be able to provide for yourself first, right? Because like you need the thing to give it away, right? In order for you to protect, you need to protect yourself first, right? And so you can't be living a life that's going to put you at risk, because then you won't be in a position to be able to protect the people that are sort of more vulnerable than you are, which are your children and your family, and will need your protection. You know, so I think there's a valid point there of like we need to focus on ourselves as men, you know, because the idea that you focus on other things external to yourself, and then you'll say something like, I'll make a plan. You know, so let's take care of the kids and the family, and then, oh, what about you? I'll make a plan, you know. But psychologically, that bears a toll on the male mind, you know. And so what I realized, so I work as an artist primarily, you know, and so there are different models to being an artist, and there are different sort of profit margins at different times of the year, you know. And as a very sensitive, I think, individual, I realized that I could play a much bigger role in my children's lives if I'm with them, you know. Because if I'm talking about the idea of financial provision, if I think about that too much, the life that I've chosen, it's going to frustrate me, you see. And so I realized there that, oh, well, man, there's so many ways to like provide as a father, you know. And so the thing that we are thinking about is, oh no, like ubaba umela lethi imali, it's absolutely important, but it's not the only thing that you can provide. You can provide peace for your family, you know, like you can provide an almost predictability for your family. There's so much that you can provide, and of course finances do provide those things, but those things can also exist without finances, I think. And that's the thing that sometimes we want to neglect, you know, that it's not the be all end all. You know, like ingana as cool ngemali ikhula ngothando, you know, and like you can see this in absolutely poor families, you know, and like in South Africa we are also exposed to like the poorest of the poor, you know, and like with the right kind of conditions, those children, and the right kind of guidance, those children end up growing and becoming something outside of their society and something to themselves, you know. So I think that's where the I want my children to know me and not my things. Of course, I'm like gathering things for them. I'm gathering resources. I'm doing as much as I can. But like all those things will mean absolutely nothing if those children don't understand who their father is and what it is that their father wishes for them, you know, and like the kind of sort of human beings I wish for them to be, you know. And so I think that's where I was basing it on, like that there's so much that we can provide as fathers. That's not only financial. Yeah.
Fantastic. So as there's a lot to unpack there, but like I think as you're talking as a dad, I know KG, as part of the presentation that you had, you were very specific around that you're not you don't have biological children. You spoke of the concept of social father, you know, and this speaks to exactly what Black Dads Unplugged is about, that we're talking about father figures. So I don't know, maybe you can tell us a little bit more around being a social father, because I think that's a very important, you know, aspect that you brought into, you know, the session.
Yeah, I think, you know, when I think of that, social fathering as well, I think that concept I could borrow from women. You know, when we look at women, when a friend, you know, has a child, is pregnant, what happens? They're all rally together, man. You know, when we know our friend is not well, maybe financially she's not well off, right? What do the ladies do? They come together. No, I'll buy this, I'll do that. They can even be there at night, whether the man is not around or whatever. So I think in taking from women, social fathering is that, right? But one of the issues about social fathering is that it's very hard for you to say, hey, I'm going to leave my sons or my kids with KG. KG doesn't have any children. But I trust him because I know he can take care of that, right? So when I talk about social fathering, I'm talking about not just I'm seeing kids on the street and I'm taking them in as my own. No, but I'm talking about a relationship between us men, social fathering, right?
Yeah.
The relationship between us, man. You're struggling with this. You can't provide here. You can't protect here. Well, maybe I can't provide, but I'm very good at protecting. So maybe let me support you with that. Right? Maybe I'm good at providing and you're very good at protecting right now.
Sure.
Let me assist you with that. Right? So that social fathering is kind of coming together and seeing where the 65% or 64.5% of kids who are growing up without fathers, that's where we now come in as social fathers to say that I can't let this happen.
Yeah.
I can't let this kid run around smoking cigarettes in front of me because I know what's going to happen. I can't let this kid run around at 6, 7 p.m. with school uniform on, knowing that he's got to go to school tomorrow, and I'm not doing anything about it, right? All I'm doing is chastising, right? So what I'm seeing as well is in our communities, fathers, older men, are even afraid of the young boys now, which is absurd. Because when we were growing up, yeah, we were afraid, but it was a respect thing,
Yes.
right? But they could, because we knew, hey, Prastif, what's going to happen, right? So I need to find a corner somewhere. That was social fathering, right? But what's happened with us now is, hey, these are my kids, I'm going to take them, these guys I'm not going to deal with, right? So when I say social, I mean, guys, as in social networking, social fathering, guys. Getting together like this, community, support, reaching out, calling on someone, right? Knowing that I've got 2 best friends. I've known them for over 30 years. Right? I should be able to call any of my guys and say, hey, dog, it's a bit rough. You know, I need this. Can you help me? You know, I'm traveling and my wife is going to be alone this weekend. Can you just maybe go check in on them? You know, that's social fathering.
Sure.
But then again, it takes a level of trust among men, right? And women do that excellently, man.
Sure.
And that's where we can learn from them. Is how can we support each other as fellow men? When I know my bro's got some kids, he's got a baby on the way, but this guy has got nothing. Right? Instead of saying, I'm fit, you shouldn't have, no, man, it's a situation, we're there, right? Of course, now we got to advise you about getting work and other things, but while we're doing that, how can I support this man?
Sure.
Otherwise, we're leaving another kid out there, stats keep going higher. And they've been increasing, by the way, right? And then there's also the idea of, I'm just like a bit sidetracking now, that, you know, as much as we're celebrating fatherhood, right? I think there's also, I'm a father, I'm the dad, right? And that becomes the only thing. But we're forgetting the family dynamic in there.
Yes.
Because they need the mom as well,
Yes.
right? So it's not just about fathers celebrating fathers, it's about celebrating family, man. It's about bringing family together, right? Whether it's blended or whatnot, but that union needs to happen. It needs to be maintained, especially for us black people. Apartheid, like, but now we're the generation that's somehow working with it and we're trying to fix it. But now it shouldn't be on an individual basis. It should be on a social basis, on a group, community basis.
Sure.
And in that way, I promise you, if I bring my children, I've got like 50-something children, man, you know? That's what I mean by social, you know? Of course, I don't know all the details and nitty-gritties about their life, but when they see me, when I see them, I affirm them, I talk to them, you know? I want to find out about them. Some I reach out to every now and then. You know, there's a kid who just graduated at UJ. They've been looking for work, this, that, and the next. And he reached out to me. Hey, Uncle KG, I'm faithful. We've been trying for work. Can you do some PR stuff for you? Cool. Show me what you got.
Yeah.
Right? Don't shut the boys down. Right?
Sure.
Of course, when I say this, man, no, it's fine. I can correct you here and there. But that is fathering. Right? And sometimes you can father people who are older than us. Right? The idea of telling your dad that you love him, that is fathering someone. Maybe that dad has never heard that from any man. That is social fathering.
Sure.
It is extending some of the love that I never got from my father, knowing that I missed this thing. My father wound is aching. It's a gaping hole, man. So how do I close that hole? How do I deal with it? Let me reach out to other children.
Sure.
I do not have that, sure. I do not have the love, but it's there. There's a hole there.
Sure.
So let me work with other people. Let me learn from other guys. How do you even do that as a dad? You know?
Sure.
You've been telling me that, mfana, it's rough every month, but hey, somehow I maintain. How do you do that? Like, tell me about it, so I also understand.
Sure.
You know, some of us are afraid. Like I said, I've been afraid of having children, right? But now that I speak to my guys, now I'm learning. Now I'm okay, I see some people are having kids. I'm like, yeah, maybe I can try it out. It's opening up my mind, right?
Sure.
So now that's exactly it. Man. So the more we connect with other guys, the more we learn from other guys, the more stories you hear, social fathering then just becomes a part of daily life. Really.
Sure.
You
100%.
know, no kid is gonna go hungry with you there, eating some big burgers or whatever, and a kid will go you don't even care.
I think that segues. Whoa, it's a great segue. It's a great segue into like just repeating, what Black Dads is about. And it's really about community. It's a peer learning platform to support each other. Because you're talking a lot about community. We're basically saying, I know for myself as Azola, I'm saying, I don't have all the answers, but like with the community of gents, as the gents that are here, we are able to create a peer learning platform for us. So even if maybe you didn't grow up with role models as fathers or as dads, but like all of us know when we grew up, like, there were, these social fathers you speak of. I mean, I remember not too far from here, like when Kibeli bicycle, and then I ran into the road, which stayed in a park, close to a Sneyman, and he got off his car, and like I think that is like other forms of the social fathering. Yeah. But so this is Black Dads Unplugged. We're really a platform where we believe, as our t-shirts are saying, and it's like essentially active fathers is the new black. Gents, if you have any other closing thoughts, maybe Sifiso Buthelezi, just to close off the session.
I think I'd encourage everyone who will be watching this to join us on our social media platforms. We've got fresh pages on Instagram and Facebook with the community that's growing very nicely, and I'd encourage all the gents that are here as well to like join us, and post something up. I think we should start having the conversations and try and keep them as honest as possible. There are some conversations that are going to become a little bit controversial, but I don't think this is what we should aim for, right? Because we can easily become the antithesis of what we're actually trying to become, right? Friedrich Nietzsche says, be careful when fighting monsters that you don't become a monster yourself, you see. And so there's something very important there about when we engage as men, we do it in a highly respectful and conscientious way that understands the fact that we are existing in a society and that our voices matter, and that what we are saying could have consequences not only for us but for the society that we're trying to build. And so it's real dads, real conversations, real support, and we're hoping to see you at one of our 4 activations this year.
Yes.
Definitely check out the events that we'll have on our social media pages, and we've got resources like to share online on our website as well, which is blackdads.africa, www.blackdads.africa. So do check that out. We're so excited to hear from you. If any women come across this as well, please do share this with a man or men, younger or older, or peers that you think could benefit from a community meeting like this, meeting with other men, other fathers, stepfathers, social fathers. I think we'd really love to meet them. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Thanks, gents.
Thank you, brother.
And thanks to everyone who
Siyabonga,
came.
mama gang.
Sibongile kakhulu, bafethu.